Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Path to Exile Car Ramblings podcast. I'm JC, and we have a doozy of an episode for you today. You'll notice that I am not moving today. That's right, I am doing a video, not driving, but I'm still in the car and I still know how to ramble. So let's get to it. Card of the day. It's a little known card that I think is, I would go as far as to say, should be in every deck with 4 or more colors. The card in question is from a little known set called Judgment. It was a while back. It's called Riftstone Portal. What it does is, it's a land, comes into play, not tapped. You tap it, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. That's it. That's the card. Nah, I'm just kidding. So in Judgment, they had a cycle called the Incarnations, and so they do stuff while they're in your graveyard. This card is no different. It adds it. It makes it so all of your lands can tap for green or white as long as it's in your graveyard. Now, follow-up question. What is one of the most powerful colors for land ramp? I'll go ahead and give you a hint. It's included in this card. It's green. I don't know why this card doesn't see more play. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, sorry. It has to do that while it's in your graveyard. Sorry, I think I missed that part. So as long as it's in your graveyard, all of your lands can tap for green or white as well, which is great because, I mean, you can enable things like Maze of Ith with that. It's kind of a not quite Chromatic Lantern. It's a 2 out of 5 Chromatic Lantern. We'll just go with that. And I mean, once it's in your graveyard, it's in your graveyard. You know, you throw it there. You don't have to worry about somebody blowing it up. Mind you, you have to worry about people, getting it out of your graveyard. But that's not as common as somebody just blowing up an artifact. All right. So today's topic. So we had a request yesterday for JC. What's your favorite block in MTG? That's a tough question. I came up with 3 categories for this video. I came up with the most powerful block. Okay. I mean, you may have your guesses. These are all opinion-based, by the way. I came up with the most impactful block. Again, you could have your guesses. And then I came up with my favorite block. It has my pet cards. It has, it's a fun block. So let's go ahead and get to it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, before we get to it, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, and go ahead and put what you think I'm going to say the most powerful block is. Don't skip ahead. What do you think the most powerful block is in MTG history? What do you think it's going to be? All right. Pause the video now. Go write your comment. Let me know. All right. I'm going to give you 3, 2, 1. It's Urza's block. Let's be honest. It's Urza's block. Urza's block is so insanely OP. It's ridiculous. I'm going to give you card examples. I basically just went on to EDH Rec and looked up what, some of the most popular cards are. They don't mean they're the most powerful cards. They're the most played cards in each set. These cards aren't going to have as high of play counts as what a lot of other cards are because a lot of them are reserve list. So starting with Urza's Saga. That was the set that gave us Windfall. Windfall is so good. So good. It's a blue wheel that could potentially give you more than 7 cards. Mind you, I think it's I think it's 4 mana instead of 3. Don't quote me on that. It might be 3 mana. I should have looked this up a little better. I should have done a little more research. But, so it also had Exploration in the set, which, yeah, good card. One of the best cards for green early land drops. You had Gamble, which is one of those meme cards that's like, I don't know if they officially changed the whatever it is text to it, where it's like gamble, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and then discard that card or another, or what is it? Discard that or another card at random. Something like that. Basically, it's you search your library for a card, put it in your hand, and then discard a card at random. That's what it is. And somebody memed it. It's fun stuff. Also, obvious pick for the top card of the set. The card everyone wants it. It's the most expensive card out of the set, and that's Gaia's Cradle. Well, I say expensive card. It's the most expensive card right now. This is 2019. I don't know what the prices are going to be like in 2022, so don't quote me on that. But it's Gaia's Cradle. Tap, add a green for each creature you control to your mana pool. It's a good card. Then there's, tribal, just awesomeness with like Priest of Titania, where it adds a green for each elf you control. And it's a creature for 2 mana. So good! What is up with this set? I mean, and then even moving on to like Legacy. Urza's Legacy. What was in that set? That had Karmic Guide in it, which is pretty good. 5 mana, it's like 3 and 2 white, I believe. And basically, when it comes into play, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. In white, that's pretty good. It's pretty rare. I think there's only been a few cards that did that in white, or had the reanimate ability in white. I think Breath of Life was one. I know Kaladesh had Refurbish, which did it for an artifact, which is even more rare for white, which I love that card. And then there was like Grim Monolith. It's a good card. It's a mana rock. It's good. It's more CEDH than it is anything. It's not really a super casual card by any stretch of the imagination. Goblin Welder. The tap, basically switch out an artifact that is in play and in the graveyard, so you can do it for yourself, and I believe you can do it for your opponent as well. Don't quote me on that. So like, if somebody has a problematic artifact in play and you don't want it to be there, you can switch it out with, I don't know, say a Wayfarer's Bauble or something that's in their graveyard. It was also didn't that I think Legacy had Palinchron, didn't it? So ridiculous. Palinchron, it was a combo enabler. I don't remember. I think it's 7 mana for it. When it comes into play, untap 7 lands. And then you can pay some amount and return it to your hand. And so if you have enough like enchantments that add extra mana whenever, like even a mana doubler, you get infinite mana with it just coming into play and bouncing it back to your hand. It's so good. And then even think about things like Deadeye Navigator. For 2 mana, you blink it, untap all your lands, infinite mana again. It's just such a combo enabler. But then again, you can do that with any creature that comes into play and untaps lands that untaps more than 2. So I think Peregrine Drake, I think that actually costs 2, so I don't think that would do it unless you're untapping like Temple of the False God or something that does an extra mana. So and then Defense of the Heart. It's Defense of the Heart is basically Tooth and Nail, only cheaper. So, what it does, it's an enchantment for 3 and a green. If your opponent if an opponent controls 3 or more creatures during your upkeep, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for 2 creature cards, I think it's up to 2 creature cards, and put them directly into play. That's stupid. That's stupid. Why is that not banned? Why is Tooth and Nail not banned? Like, I know that they're all like, once there's 100 cards banned, that the format's dead, but we're looking at 22,000 cards or some stupid number that we're currently at. So, what's 100 cards? That's not even, maybe 1% would be 220 cards. So we're looking at less than 0.5% of all the cards in MTG history would be banned. So, I don't know. What was the third set in that block? Urza's Saga Legacy Destiny. Urza's Destiny, that had Thran Dynamo, didn't it? I think that was where that card originated. Yeah, that was where a lot of the Thran stuff. I think that also had like, don't quote me on this. I don't know if that one had Thran Incubator. I don't know if it did or not. Yavimaya Elder was out of that set though, which is pretty good. He's pretty good. Academy Rector. That's the one where whenever she dies, search your library for an enchantment card and put it directly onto the battlefield. I think she only costs 3 too, so it's like 2 and a white. Pretty good card. I think she's like $80 now too. Elvish Piper started out of that set, didn't it? That's a great card. I think it's a 4-mana elf for green and tap. Put a creature card from your hand directly into play. You're not casting it. You're just putting it onto the battlefield, I believe. So you don't get cast triggers or anything. But yeah. Oh, even Saga. Thinking about that. That had Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack's good. It's so good. You don't know what Sneak Attack is. 4 mana. It's an enchantment. It's thinking 3 and a red. And for 1 red, you don't tap enchantments, but for just a red mana, put a creature card from your hand into play with haste, sacrifice it at the end of turn. That's amazing. It's so good. It's so good. And then Metalworker, I believe, was in Destiny as well. So, another great card. I think he's skyrocketed in price. I think he's sitting at $50 now. Yeah, I mean, I'd say that is definitely the most powerful block by far. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And just, I mean, its prices are really why not more people play the cards out of it. I mean, you're looking at Gaia's Cradle, $350. Metalworker, $50. Academy Rector, $80. What else was there? Exploration, $20 or $30. Gamble, it's expensive at like $3. I'm just kidding. Gamble's actually affordable. Buy Gamble. Buy as many Gambles as you can. But I mean, like Grim Monolith, isn't it like $80 to $120 depending on the condition? It's stupid. Stupid. But so moving on. I gave you the most powerful set. Now let's get to the most impactful set. These to me are like the sets that had cards that really define the format. You're gonna see with this set. Okay, I don't want to give anything away. If you did not comment on my last question, which was the most powerful set, go ahead and comment what you think the most impactful set will be. And if you did comment again. I'm gonna give you 3, 2, 1. It's Mirrodin block. It's so good. It's so good. I mean, Mirrodin by itself, what were the 3 sets out of that? It was Mirrodin. Oh, it's Darksteel and Fifth Element, or Fifth Element, Fifth Dawn, right? So you have, I mean, Mirrodin by itself, that had Lightning Greaves in it. What else was there? Solemn Simulacrum. I actually used to call it Simulacrum. It's just a super versatile card. Everybody plays it. It can go into any deck. See, that's the thing you're going to find with the most impactful set. A lot of artifacts. But then you had things that were not artifacts. Oh, you had a lot of affinity for artifacts in that set, too. That's where affinity started. Wasn't there that one blue card? Doesn't really see much play. It's like affinity for artifacts. It costs like 35 or something, but it has an affinity for artifacts, and you basically can draw 2 or 3 cards for 1 blue mana. It's pretty good. The land cycle out of that set was insane. It was all artifact lands. They don't come into play tapped. So you had your Great Furnace, which was the red one. It literally was a mountain, except it didn't say mountain on it, so you can't fetch it. But yeah, it's just a mountain at that point. It's an artifact mountain. So, if you're trying to go for... Whoo, that car cannot park for anything. That's the 3rd time packing up. Get it, dude. You can do it. Figure it out. You got this. Yeah, anyways, the land cycle, you can enable lots of artifact shenanigans with it. What's that? Metalcraft. You have 3 or more artifacts in play. You enable Metalcraft, so... I mean, your lands are artifacts at that point. So, I mean, luckily you can only have 1 of each in your deck for Commander. Also, it had... What else was in there? Oh, it had Tooth and Nail. That set had stupid Tooth and Nail. That set is so good. It's so good. It had some... I think it had the Sword of Fire and Ice. It had... Fabricate was in it. Fabricate, if you don't know, is a blue and 3, I believe. Search your library for an artifact, put it in your hand. I mean, it's a blue artifact tutor. You don't have a lot of those in Magic the Gathering's history. I mean, you had like the white one, which is like Enlightened tutor, but that's stupid expensive now. It's like $20. I think Fabricate you can get for like $2. I don't know why I'm all about money right now, but hey, it's an expensive game. May as well be, right? Yeah, there's so many. I mean, Loxodon Warhammer's in that set. I'm sure you could just go on to like EDH Rec and just be like, go down the list and just be like, that's in this set. That's in this set. What? No, that's in this set. Yeah, that's how the set is. It works. Like, I'm sure all three of the sets in that block were like that too. Like Darksteel. I mean, you had Skullclamp in Darksteel. I feel like Darksteel is one of the most powerful sets in Magic the Gathering's history, but it's probably the least impactful when it comes to EDH. I mean, you had Skullclamp, which, if you don't know what Skullclamp is, why are you even playing Commander? Like, it's a Commander staple. If you don't own one, buy 3. I think they're actually up to... Never mind, don't buy 3. Only buy 1 and just switch it. I think it's like $5 now. It's ridiculous. It's an uncommon. You had Whisper Soak Cloak in that set, which makes your creatures... I think it makes them unblockable and gives them Shroud. Which Shroud is the crappier version of Hexproof. It means you can't target them either. And then you had Mycosynth Lattice, which turns all permanents in play into artifacts, and then all... I think it's all permanents not in play become colorless. I think that's how it is. I think it's like 6 mana for it. It's pretty good. It's actually seen a recent price spike because of the new Karn that's coming out in War of the Spark. Dating this video, obviously. Because this video... It was shot in 2019 before War of the Spark is out. And we just have I think we just finished spoiler season, and we're waiting for it to come out. So that's where we are right now in the history of Magic the Gathering. So you had Darksteel Ingot, which I think that's one of the best mana rocks, in my opinion, of all time. It is. It's indestructible, so people love destroying mana rocks with things like Vandal Blast, which destroys all of your opponent's artifacts. It doesn't add colorless. It adds 1 mana of any color. It only costs 3. It's so good. If you don't run Darksteel Ingot, run it. I mean, if you're wanting to go more CEDH, you'd run other ones that are cheaper. But if you're going CEDH, I mean, you're going to be spending a crap ton on your deck anyways, and you're not going to be looking at viable other. You're going to be going with the same cards everybody else is going with, basically, is what I'm saying. You're going to be going for the Lion's Eye Diamonds and the Mana Crypts and anything that's 0 cost and super effective. But then there was Darksteel Forge in that set. I don't remember what that card does. I just remember it was really, really good. And really good for EDH. I think it makes all artifacts indestructible. That's what it does. Oh, that's great. Especially if you're running an artifact deck. I don't know. Darksteel, I mean, it's great for other sets. I mean, it had like Darksteel Ravager in it, which is, I mean, it's a great card. It has a really, really high floor, but its ceiling is really low. So, I mean, it's not that great for EDH. It's really not. But Fifth Dawn. I would call Fifth Dawn the redheaded stepchild of this block. For every other, I don't know. No, it had Krark Clan Ironworks, which recently got banned in Modern, but it is so good. It's so good. I mean, you had like Eternal Witness was out of there. A lot of people would argue Eternal Witness is overplayed. I might agree with that. I don't think it fits in every deck, but it does fit into a lot of decks. And when it comes down, you don't regret having it in your hand and having it come down. You never regret it. Even if there's nothing in your graveyard, you still get a 3/2 body. Or 2/3 body? 3/2 body. I think it's 3/2. I mean, it's recurable, artifact, not artifact, graveyard recursion. So you recur it, or you blink it, it gives you more stuff out of your graveyard. It's so good. Wayfarer's Bauble was out of that set, which is, they need to print another version of it, I think. It is, white needs something else. I mean, they just did Smothering Tithe, which is fantastic. It's good. I've been playing with it a lot recently. In my banned video, I said that I thought it should be banned. I'm actually more on the fence now about that. I've had it come down on turn 3, and I did not win that game. So, I don't know. I thought if it came down early enough, you'd end up winning. It's not as effective as too many other elements have to fall into place. You have to have some sort of good card draw. You have to also have the right kind of opponent. So it's good. I mean, Smothering Tithe's great. I don't know why I'm still on Smothering Tithe. We're doing a list of stuff out of Fifth Dawn right now, but I feel like white needs something else as well. I know it has things like what's that one? Okay, anyways, getting back to Fifth Dawn. We'll just get back to Fifth Dawn. Wayfarer's Bauble, I think it's 1 mana, and then 2 and tap. Search your library for a land card, and I believe put it into play tapped. I don't think it's into your hand. I think it's into play tapped, which is great. I mean, there's a bunch of artifacts that do that. You got Burnished Heart, which I think does 2 artifacts. You got 2 lands. You also have Solemn Simulacrum, if you will, from Mirrodin. I don't know. I think they need another one, at least for white, and maybe even red needs a little bit more land ramp. I mean, red's gotten better, but what's a little bit more of an option. Like every other color has options out the wazoo. I say that and then blue has nothing, but blue doesn't need it. We don't need turn 1 counter spells. So, what else was in that set? Fifth Dawn. Oh, it also had Fist of Suns, which was, I think it costs 5 mana or 6 mana to come down. It's an artifact. You may pay Wooburg for instead of any spells mana cost. So, or commit, yeah, instead of their mana cost. So basically, you pay white, blue, black, red, green, and you can play an expropriate. You can play a time stretch. It's good. I mean, it's not broken, but it's fun. It's really fun. It's the same effect that's on Joda. Joda has the same exact ability, and he's somebody you can play as your commander if you don't know. He's really fun. There's something about these two blocks that I didn't mention. There's not a ton of commanders that are just great. In the Urza's block, there aren't really a lot. I mean, I think in Urza's Saga alone, I think you have Baron and I think Urtai? I think there's one other one, but none of them are great. And then you have Rofellos out of, I believe, Destiny. Yeah, I think it's Destiny. And he's not great. I mean, I'm sorry. He is great. He's awesome. He's amazing, but he's banned. So you can't play him. And then I think there's Multani, the original Multani. Not really, I mean, play the new Multani if you're going to play either one of them. There's not really much of an option for commanders out of there. Same thing with the Mirrodin block. I think the original Glissa, there was Slowbad. Slowbad's actually pretty okay. You also had Bosch, Iron Golem. So there were some options. There's just not a lot of amazing options. Yeah, I'm not really coming up with amazing stuff. But out of Fifth Dawn, there was also Crucible of Worlds. Oh, and Vidalcan Orrery. Holy cow, how did I forget about Vidalcan Orrery? It was the first printing was out of that set. Oh, man. Then also this Crucible of Worlds, it was the first printing of that, was in Fifth Dawn. If you don't know what that one does, it's... And you can play lands out of your graveyard as if they were in your hand. I mean, I don't think that's the wording on it, but that's basically what it does. So, I mean, you still have to follow the rules of land, so you can only do one per turn unless there's something on the board saying you can do more. But, yeah. Vidalcan Orrery. All spells you cast have flash. That's awesome. For 4 mana. That, I mean, it's up there in price now too. Its awesomeness is showing. I think it's $20 to $30 right now. So there was also the Beacon Cycle out of there. I wasn't a huge fan of the Beacon Cycle, especially like Beacon of Immortality. No, not Immortality. Beacon of the blue one. Basically, take an extra turn, shuffle it into your deck. It enables a lot of degenerate combos. But there's also, I mean, there's Beacon of Immortality. It doubles your life total and then shuffle it back into your library. There was the black one, which was, I think it cost 5 mana. Put a creature card from a graveyard, not your graveyard, a graveyard, into play under your control and then shuffle it into your library. Green one did put a 1/1 insect creature token into play for each forest you control. Which, if you're doing mono green, it's awesome. Otherwise, it's not that great. I think that one's also, I don't know. I actually don't know the mana cost on that one. But the blue one, everybody knows the blue one. Not a fan of the blue one. But then, I'll give you one more card. It's one of the most famous cards, and it's one of the most fun cards. One of the most fun decks. Relentless Rats. Relentless Rats was out of Fifth Dawn. It was also reprinted, I believe, in 8th edition. And it may have had another reprinting. It was in Eternal Masters? Masters 20... Not 25. Oh no, it was also maybe Modern Masters 2017. It was one of the Masters sets, but it's so fun. If you don't know what it is, it's 1 and 2 black. It's a creature rat. I believe its power and toughness are 2/1. And each Relentless Rats gets +1/+1 for each other card named Relentless Rats in play. You can have any number of Relentless Rats in your library or in your deck. So you can make a 50 actual cards of Relentless Rat in your Commander deck, which breaks the rules of Commander. Commander's, it's supposed to be, it's a singleton format, you only have 1 card of each. But the cards themselves set the rules. The rules can be overwritten if the card says so. Like Crucible of Worlds. You're supposed to play lands out of your hand. You can play them out of your graveyard now. So, same thing with Relentless Rats. You can have as many as you want in your library, up to 99. You can have up to 99 Relentless Rats in your library. I wouldn't suggest that because you would have no lands to play them. But I don't know. You could have them if you want. You wouldn't actually get anywhere with it, but yeah. I mean, that's see the Mirrodin block was so good. I feel like it gets overshadowed by things like Kaladesh block was really good. See, anything with artifacts. I mean, the Scars of Mirrodin Besieged, whatever that block was called. What was that block called? I don't remember the name of that block. Mirrodin Besieged? Return to Mirrodin. But New Phyrexia. I don't know. It was also good. Anything based around artifacts is going to have great cards in it, for Commander at least. Because they can go in any deck. I mean, like I said, the Kaladesh block was great as well. You had things like Paradox Engine. Much as I hate it, it's still one of the best cards ever printed. Alright, so getting back to the 3 separate things we're doing in this video. We have the most powerful block. We have... Oh, where'd my thing go? Did I drop it? Uh-oh. Oh well. We have the most powerful block. We have the most impactful block. And we have my favorite block. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the 3 seconds again to go ahead and write in the comments before you see what it is, what you think my favorite block is. You ready? 3, 2, 1. It's Odyssey. The Odyssey block is my favorite block. If you couldn't tell by our channel logo, which is the Mirari, but I adjusted the thing that's holding the Mirari to the initials of the channel. It's so good. It's so fun. I mean, just... Okay, let's talk about Odyssey. Odyssey itself has some really fun cards. I mean... Okay, let's talk about versatility, usability of the sets. They're not the greatest sets. They have a lot of build around me cards. They have a lot of cards that I feel like should be played more. And they also have a lot of cards that are great and have been reprinted a ton. Like, take for example, for versatility, the filter lands. The filter lands are awesome. If you don't know what the filter lands are, they are allied colors. I wish they would do the other ones, whatever they're called, the enemy colors. But they have the allied colors of, say, the Sky Shroud. I think I said that wrong. I don't think it's Sky Shroud or anything. I don't know what it is. Sky Cloud Key. No, Sky Cloud Expanse? I don't remember. I don't remember the name of them. But, so basically what they do is 1 and tap. That's one generic and tap. And I think it's 1 of anything. I don't think it has to actually be colorless. So you could do just 1 generic and tap. add white blue, literally white blue to your mana pool. Not white or blue, white blue. So you do get a net gain of 1 mana, and you get of both of those colors. So I love them. The only problem with them is they don't do anything turn 1. They come down, you can't use them. That's the biggest problem with them. But we're talking about EDH. That's not that big of a to-do. That's not a big deal. So something that you'll notice with these sets is, I probably should have said this before I started talking about the lands, but so Odyssey is basically, it's based around 5 color. Whereas you look at the later 2 sets, Torment is based pretty much around black. It's a black set. You had a lot of cards that cared about if you had swamps. You had a lot of nightmarish creatures, but then you had Judgment. Judgment, I feel, was based a lot around, or mostly around green-white. You had a lot of cards that cared about green-white, like our card of the day. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just something I'm looking too far into, but I know that the black thing, it was themed as a black set. It was a black aligned set. They haven't really done the other 4 colors by themselves for their own sets. I really wish they'd go back and do that, but it's Wizards. They don't like finishing what they've started. Like, we don't have filter lands for the enemy colors, which would be fantastic, and I feel like their prices would be skyrocketing. But again, they'd probably have to go into standard, and they would be overprinted, so their prices wouldn't be that bad. But okay, getting back to Odyssey. Odyssey also had Entomb. Entomb, combo enabler. It also had a lot of versatility with just reanimation strategies. It also has a lot of dredge strategies. So if you don't know what Entomb is, it is 1 black. Search your library for a card and put it in your graveyard. Doesn't matter what the card is. Search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard. Awesome. I love that card. Karmic Justice was in that set. A lot of people love Karmic Justice. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't remember I know it's white, but I don't know the CMC. I think it's 4. But if a spell or ability that targets a non-creature permanent that you control, or if a spell or ability would destroy a non-creature permanent that you control, destroy that permanent, or destroy a permanent of that. You may destroy a... Oh, man. I'm trying to remember all these cards off the top of my head. I feel like I'm doing better than I thought I would, though. Like, really. And basically, you get to choose and destroy one of their permanents. There's also Time Stretch was in that set. Time Stretch is probably my favorite Take Another Turn card ever printed. Not just because it's in Odyssey, but because it takes 2 extra turns. Yes, it has a mana cost of, I believe, it's either 9 or 10. But a lot of times you're going to be casting that for free. There's a lot of cards that allow you to do that. And it is recurable. It doesn't exile itself, like say something, I think Expropriate does. Expropriate is also considered one of the best of all time, but it exiles itself. So it's a 1-use extra turn spell, whereas Time Stretch is a 2-turn. I think it's the same CMC. It's 2 turns, and it goes in your graveyard. Doesn't exile. So you can, I don't know, Archaeomancer it back to your hand. You can Mnemonic Wall it back to your hand. There's lots of things you can do. It's great. I love Time Stretch. It's awesome. I think Deserted Temple was also in that set. You had Tarnished Citadel. Deserted Temple, I think, is tap. It comes into play untapped. Tap, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. And then tap, 1 generic, and then tap to add, to untap target land. That's what it is. So you can use it to untap, like, say, a Cabal Coffers or a Gaia's Cradle or some other land that also can be either a utility land, so you can use it to untap like a Maze of Ith, or you can use it to untap, if you really need lands that badly, a terrain generator. It's great. I love it. It's a great card. I feel like it's underplayed. I think it actually has like 3,000 decks on EDH Rec, but yeah, I never see it. I mean, anecdotal evidence aside, I've never seen one in play aside from the ones I've played. I used to have a foil one. I don't know what happened to it. That was worth some money. But yeah, I mean, it's a great set. I love Odyssey. Oh, freaking Mirari is in the set. Mirari's so good. It's a legendary artifact for 5 mana. Whenever you play a spell, you may pay 3. If you do, copy the spell. You can only do it once per spell. I've learned that as for the rulings. So you can't like play a time stretch and then pay 6 and take a total of 6 extra turns. Doesn't work that way. And then the next set was Torment. Torment, like I said, was a black and line set. So you had like the okay, let's start with Cabal Coffers for a second. It is probably, beside Gaia's Cradle, the #1 most powerful land. Yeah, I'd say that. The most powerful land for its color type in all of Magic's history. I would actually maybe even put it above Gaia's Cradle in some instances. Just because it comes down, I believe, untapped, and you can tap it and pay 2 generic to add 1 black mana for every swamp you... I think it's you control. I don't think it's in play. I think it's that you control. Which, combined with something like Urborg, which turns all swamps, or all lands into play also into swamps. So, you can play it in a multicolored deck. I don't know. It's great. It's a great card. It's also really expensive. It needs a reprint. People are expecting to possibly see it in Modern Horizons because the floor on it isn't that great. Just because you do have to pay the 2, and then once you pay the 2 and tap it, you have to basically have 3 swamps in play for it to even net you anything. And yeah, so it's not that great for Modern, and so they're thinking that it might actually be reprinted as a way of them trying to sell the set. I'm okay with that because I'd love to have a few. It would probably be Mythic, and the price of it wouldn't change because of it, because Wizards are douchebags and they like to keep their equity. So the price would not really change that much. It'd maybe go down $5. I think it's currently sitting at like 30. Chainer Dementia Master was also in the set. He's just a great commander. He's awesome. Odyssey had some good commanders too. Seaton was in there. And then Atagatog. Atagatog is one of the best commanders of all time. I love Atagatog. Like, he was my go-to 5-color commander for the longest time. Just because he's just so silly. He's just a silly commander. And then the Tainted Lands that I was talking about, so the way they work is they come down untapped. So say like Tainted Peaks. Tainted Peaks can tap for 1 generic And then if you control a swamp, it can tap for black or green. Or no, not green, red. Black or red. So, I mean, it comes down. It comes down and can immediately play colorless. So, that's not nothing. You'll always get some use out of the land. So it's not like you can't use it if you don't control a swamp. You can still use it. Still adds one generic. But if you control a swamp, it just gets that much better. Same thing. There was only 4 of those. They didn't have a black one because I'm thinking that was what Cabal Coffers was. But it would be weird to have, if you control a swamp, add black or black. Wouldn't make sense. So I think they had to come up with something else for the black uncommon slot for the land cycle. But yeah, they were all the allied colors, not allied colors. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. They were all black or the other color. So black or blue, black or red, black or green, or black or white. So they were, I mean, I love them. I feel like those are underplayed. If you're running any sort of black deck, if you have Urborg in your deck and you're running like an exploration map or Thespian Stage or something. Thespian Stage was not the the land I was thinking of. Never mind. Ignore that one. But why did I say Thespian Stage? It doesn't even make sense. Okay, let's talk about Crozen. What was his name? Her name, their name. Crozen Restorer, that's what it was. Crozen Restorer, tap, untap target land. Okay, it's an Arbor Elf, basically. But for any land. It's not an elf. I think it's a human shaman, I believe. Or human druid, one of the two. I don't think they were shamans. I think it was druid. So I think it's human druid. But threshold. Threshold says if you control, or if your graveyard has 7 or more cards in it, threshold is basically active. Untap 3 target lands. So tap it to untap 3 target lands. It's pretty good. But when you can combine it with other cards that untap creatures as well, it starts getting out of hand. It's a common. So say you have Threshold and you untap 3 lands that each add 2, because say you have a mana doubler in play. Well, that's 6 mana right there. Okay. And then you play Fate Stitcher or Cura's Follower, something that untaps something else. You untap the Crozen Explorer. Crozen. I forgot what it's called. I think it's Explorer. Restorer? It's one of the two. Explorer or Restorer. You know what I'm trying to say. You tap all that mana, then you untap those lands again. And you're then up 12 mana. Like, because of this one creature. It's so good. It needs more play. I feel like it actually gets some good play. Most ladies watching me. Don't watch me. Welcome by. Go on. Keep walking. That's right. You got an umbrella. Okay. Yeah. Anyways. That's the weird part of like doing this in my car is people walk by and they're like, what are you doing? I actually had a guy yesterday come and interrupt whenever I was actually filming a video. You're not going to see it because I ended up like, I think I deleted that part. But he was like, you can't park here. Like, what are you talking about? And just parked. It's not a big deal. Anyways. Yeah, Torment, I feel like it didn't have that many amazing cards that are great for EDH. But what it did have as far as those few cards, and then there are some build around me cards. There's some cards that are pretty versatile. I think there was a uncommon blue card. What was it called? It was a draw card. Deep Analysis, that's what it was. It was, I think, 4 mana, draw 2 cards. That's not that great, but it has flashback. Flashback, 1 and a blue, and then pay 3 life, draw 2 cards. So I'm up for that. I'll pay 3 life and 2 mana to draw 2 cards. That's awesome. And you're not losing a card because it's already in your graveyard. So you're not down a card from your hand. So you're not really only netting 1 card. You're netting 2 cards at that point. Or if you actually paid for it from your hand and then from your graveyard, you're paying a total of 6 mana and 3 life for 4 cards. Pretty good. It's pretty good rate. But if you're just paying it, if you somehow discarded it from your hand, you just get a good rate. I mean, it's at that point you're just getting 2 cards for essentially 2 mana. The 3 life is negligible unless you're really low in life. If you're up there, if you're even above 20, you're still good. Yeah, but that's not really. I feel like that's about it as far as what was really amazing out of Torment, as far as cards that really affect EDH a ton. Yeah. Well, Judgment though. Moving on to Judgment. Oh, Judgment. Judgment had some cycles. It had some fun cycles. It had, let's start with the Wish cycle. You can't really play it in EDH unless, if you're playing with some friends and you're like, hey, this deck's going to have sideboard. Hope you're cool with it. Most people will be like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. Just play with sideboard. Because we don't sideboard anyways. So, okay, go for it. Have a sideboard. So Wishes, they search outside the game for cards. Exile is a completely separate thing from that, so you can't search Exile for cards and put them in your hand. You have to be directly, so like Burning Wish, search for I think it's 2 and a red, search for a sorcery outside of the game and put it in your hand. It's a great card, but outside of the game only refers to your sideboard now. So, then there was also, let's talk about one of my favorite things out of Judgment, which was the Incarnations. The Incarnations are so fun. You have Anger, Valor, Brawn, Filth, and Glory. Glory? No, Glory was it was an Incarnation, but it wasn't one of the uncommons. It was, what was the blue? Wonder. Wonder was the other one. So you have Valor is the white one, which gives, as long as it's in your... Okay, so the way the Incarnations work for the uncommon cycle was, as long as this card is in your graveyard and you control its associated land, so for white it'd be a plains. As long as you control the plains and Valor is in your graveyard, all of your creatures have first strike. That's awesome. That's great. And then the blue one was flying. So as long as it's in your graveyard, all your creatures have flying. The black one, Filth, was Swamp Walk. Not as good, unless you're running something like Urborg, and you can somehow fetch it out easily. I actually had somebody play it in a... what's that stupid card called? Not Shatter Gang. Not Krenko. It's that one guy who cares about stuff being on the bottom of your library. And so he ended up getting out of Filth and putting it into the graveyard. And all of his stuff had Swamp Walk. Oh, so obnoxious. So basically Swamp Walk. It's an older ability. You don't really see it a ton now. As long as your opponent controls a swamp, your creatures are unblockable. That's a pretty bird. That's a yellow belly. I've never seen that bird before. And then, so that's the black one. The red one is Anger. It's probably the most famous one. And it is haste. All your creatures gain haste as long as it's in your graveyard and you control a mountain. And then Brawn, I believe, is the green one. I think it's Brawn. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's Brawn, though. And it's Trample. All your creatures gain Trample. Great cycle. one of the more fun cycles because they don't have to be in your, like, they don't have to be in play. They just exist in your graveyard, and they give your stuff abilities in your graveyard. One of my favorite things to do on turn 1 is to pitch an incarnation, and like, so basically you don't play a land, skip your turn, pitch an incarnation into your graveyard. So turn 1 comes around to me, draw a card, pass, end of turn I have to discard down to 7, so I throw anger into my graveyard. So it's so silly. Like, you skipped your land drop to be able to get haste to all your creatures. I'd say it's worth it personally, because you have things like Need for Speed, which are for 1 mana, sacrifice it's an enchantment, sacrifice a land. It's actually out of Odyssey, by the way. 1 mana, sacrifice land, target creature gains haste until end of turn. So instead of that, I'm just giving all of my creatures haste by it just being in my graveyard. So I think it's worth it. It's fun. People don't see it coming. So there were other incarnations. I think there were only 2 other ones. Again, don't quote me on that. And those were Glory, which was a white one, had something to do, I believe, with giving things protection from colors or something. And then there was Genesis. Genesis had to do with putting creatures, if it was in your graveyard, it would put a creature from your graveyard on top of your library, I think, during your upkeep. I think that's it. I'm horrible with remembering these cards off the top of my head. I apologize. I'm also, I don't even know, 20, 30, 40 minutes into this video. I'm actually trying a new setup today. I have the video, I'm using a different camera, so I can't actually see myself. So I don't know how long I have been ranting. There was also, what else was there in that set? Mirari's Wake. Oh my god, how did I forget about Mirari's Wake? So it's a mana doubler, cost 2. And no, it cost 2. Why did I say it cost 2? It costs 3, green and white. This is where the green white's coming in. There's lots of green white in that set. Double all of, if you would tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any color that land I believe could produce or has produced. So if you tap a forest for green, it adds another green. If you tap a swamp, it adds an extra black. But also, all your creatures get +1/+1. It's a nice little thing tacked onto it. It's also only 5 mana, which, a lot of other ones that do this, say like Zendikar Resurgence, I think it's 7 mana for it. That one, you get to draw a card when you play a creature card. I think I'd rather draw a card than my creature get +1/+1, but it also only costs 5 mana for this thing, and it's in a, I don't know. The +1/+1 a lot of times is pretty usable, unless you're trying to do like Skull Clamp shenanigans. That's the only time I hate having Anthem effects. But aside from Mirari's Wake, there was also things, like other cards that did green-white stuff. So you had like Frozen Verge, which is a land. It taps for colorless, and then 2 and tap, sacrifice Frozen Verge, search your library for a forest and a plains, and then put them onto the battlefield tapped. Not a basic forest and a basic plains. A forest and a plains. So you can go get shocks with this. You can go get duels. You can go get the bicycle lands. You can go get, I think, the check lands. I think those were also the dual typed lands. So if you're needing something that, if you're playing like say 5 color and you need if you need a mountain, go search for like, what's that thing called? Any of the shocks that would be a green and a red, or like Stomping Grounds. Go search for a Stomping Grounds, or the white red one. Yeah, search for either of those. Those would work. So I don't know. It's an awesome card. It's great. If you're playing anything green white, you're going to be running that card. Period. You're going to. It's a fetch that fetches up 2 lands by itself. It thins your deck. It can be versatile in more than 2 colors. There's no reason not to run it. It also isn't worthless because it does tap for a colorless. So even the turn it comes down, if you want to, play it, pay 2, sack it, and then search for your lands right there on the spot if you want to. I don't really suggest doing that. Always, if you can, always remember, play things at the end of other people's turns so that you see what they've done first. There's no reason to sack a land during your turn. Yeah, I think that's probably a good amount of cards I've thrown at your face. I don't know. What do you think? What is your favorite set? That's my question. Not set. Block. I know a lot of people will say the Mirrored and Besieged, New Phyrexia, that whole set. A lot of people love that. I actually didn't play it. There was also the Innistrad block was really, really good. But I feel like Innistrad was more modern heavy than it was EDH. I had the lands in it were really good, I thought. There was also stuff like Rooftop Storm, which is really fun in a blue-black zombie. But yeah, just tell me, what was your favorite block? I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear arguments as to why, and or even if you think there's a more powerful block than the Urza's block, I dare you to try and prove me wrong on that one, because Urza's block was so overpowered. Especially for its time, and even by today's standards, it's overpowered. So I don't know. You tell me. I think that's where I'm gonna end this video. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I'm gonna try and get this uploaded today. I have a really slow upload speed, so it takes a while for me to do it. I'm also gonna try and do it under a different editor. My last video that I put up, the sound was like, I had it set to 8%. 8%, the volume of the music. You would think it'd be really quiet, but it was trying to out volume me. So I don't know. I'm switching up my editor, my editing program, and I'm gonna see if I can come up with something a little bit less loud. So thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate everything. Liking, subscribing. It's just tricking the algorithm to help other people see these videos. I'm doing everything I can to comment in other videos, which I know is kind of shady to comment in other creators' videos. But I'm not being like, hey, look at my channel. I'm just being like, hey, I have a channel and I appreciate what you're doing, and you're the reason I'm doing it. Because every time I comment on one of the other creators' channels saying, hey, you're an inspiration, they are. Every single one of them. Every single one of them has pushed me to create this channel. So, and then you guys watching, it helps. I love suggestions for new videos. Those are great. I actually have had some ideas for videos, and this video, this was actually a suggestion from somebody. So I actually didn't come up with this myself. I didn't even think of this as a topic. It's great. I love it. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling now, guys. You have a great day. Get out there and play some Magic. All right.